Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries. Hi everyone, welcome back to the North Lanarkshire Libraries podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson, the eServices Librarian, and we are back with our season 4 of our podcast, and today I'm joined by Russell Brown and Drew Feeney. Now, Russell, I couldn't remember what your actual job title was apart from boss, so could you remind me what the job title was?
Oh, it changes week to week. Currently a digital and support services manager, but that is due to change, I'm pretty certain. I haven't been told what to, but it will change.
And I've got Drew as the librarian at Airdrie Library as well. And we thought we'd come back with our first episode of season 4 as a bit of a celebration to most of our libraries being reopened, because we now have got 16 libraries reopened at this point. Which is much more than we've had at any point for the last year and a half, I think. So we're going quite well. And I thought we'd just have a wee chat about how great it is to be reopened and stuff. So, Russell, I thought we'd kind of kick you off, go to you first and see. It's been a bit strange times the last year and a half. However, we are starting to get back to normal a little bit. As I say, we've got 16 opened, and by the time this podcast goes out, we'll have 3 of our libraries back to pre-COVID hours, which is fantastic. But what has been the big challenges in returning the service to that point and getting us back to being open to where we are?
Oh, well, many and varied, as you would imagine. I think first and foremost is just to say that it's absolutely brilliant that we're back, that our libraries are open, although I do appreciate that at the moment quite a lot of the libraries are open on reduced hours. But there has been many, many challenges just to even get to that point, because quite a lot of the buildings were shut for a better part of a year, just over a year. So as you can imagine, we have some actual building issues, which I'm sure we've all, working in libraries have been fully aware of. So we've had repairs and leaks. Libraries, unfortunately, do leak an awful lot. So we've had quite a number of issues in regard to repairs, external repairs to buildings, repairing roof leaks, which has delayed some of the buildings being reopened. We've also had some issues just inside getting things tidy, because, as I say, the spaces haven't been used for quite a while. So reorganizing and tidying the spaces. I suppose in one sense we've been lucky that some of the spaces have been used by other services while we've been closed. So Chapel Hall Library, for instance, was used by the nursery while we were closed. So getting that back up to speed after that is obviously going to be proving quite a challenge. Drew, I'm sure you can talk about that later. We've also had school at Christon using Christon Library, so it meant that we had limited opening hours initially for that until the end of the school term, and I managed to open up. So just practical day-to-day issues that have been accumulating over that kind of year and a bit that we've had to deal with, getting staff back, reorientating staff, getting all the COVID set up prepared, because we've got to make sure the buildings are COVID secure and entrances and exits are COVID secure, running track and trace, everybody having to wear masks. I could go on. As you can imagine, multifaceted. But it's been great to have people back. It's been great to be able to continue to purchase new stock and get new stock out, and people can borrow it, to see faces, even though those faces have been covered in masks more often than not. But it's been great to see people, for people to come in. And now as we go forward to even more of a further opening up of the society, what I'm hoping we'll see is our libraries are going to open a bit more. As you mentioned, there are 3 libraries opening full time from next week. I forget whether is that the 9th? No, yes, I think. Yeah. And also we'll be announcing that Wisher will be opening evenings as well from the week after, so we can do more once we're open. And we're putting chairs out. People can now come in and sit. We're extending the amount of time that people can sit at a computer to 2 hours. So we're slowly but surely getting back to some normality. But all of this has been a challenge to prepare that and to make sure staff understand the safety protocols that are in place to continue to follow hand washing procedures. All of these things need to be put in place at the beginning to make sure people are safe and secure and feel safe when they come into our buildings. So those have been the kind of main challenges, I guess, over the kind of last kind of few months. But welcome, because it's good to see the libraries back open.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's a big relief to both our library members and probably to a lot of our staff as well, that we're kind of getting back to some sort of normality in terms of that. We have obviously managed to kind of provide a library service through BorrowBox while we've been well, we've been closed, but there is some people who do just love the good old-fashioned book and also access to our computers and things like that. And Russell touched a little bit on Chapel Hall. That must be a bit of a challenge there to get Chapel
Yeah,
Hall a bit up and running as well.
it's been a challenge the whole way through, Chris, the Chapel Hall, because as Russell said, Chapel Hall was used by our nursery colleagues more or less for the last year, since the summer last year until just at the end of the school term there. So Chapel Hall in itself became a completely different facility. The library had effectively just to move out. So there's all sorts of logistical challenges within that. Where does the stock go? Where does the fixtures and fittings go? It has to be then made safe and appropriate for a nursery. So all of these challenges had to be done at pace last summer, which we were able to do. During the second lockdown, the building itself was completely closed for all concerned, but we were lucky there from April, as the nursery reopened, that Chapel Hall was able to reopen as a satellite library. Currently it's open for 2 afternoons a week, but it was wonderful just to get a semblance of service back there. We are now going to be moving on to the next phase of Chapel Hall, which is to get it ready to reopen fully. Which is going to again be a logistical challenge putting it back together, but it's something we're really looking forward to, and everyone here genuinely is looking forward to getting in about it and getting everything set back up there and back up and running. A couple of wee things I'd like to add for Russell. Russell covered it all there, what the challenges are. Operationally, some of our challenges here is we take great pride in what we do, and I think we do across the board, and offering as full a range of service as we can within COVID restrictions has been a real challenge, because we always want to do more. We always want to do more, and simply we weren't allowed at points to do what we wanted to do. That's slowly coming back now, and we're able to kind of start looking ahead and looking at possibly getting our groups back in smaller scales and possibly getting our room hires back eventually and things like that. And another challenge within that is dealing with change almost on a daily basis. You know, things changing at a governmental level affects us and the service virtually on a daily basis. As I say, things that were appropriate one day suddenly become not appropriate, and we have to adjust to that whilst maintaining a quality that we aim for all the time anyway. So that's really been difficult, but I think we've absolutely risen to it. The staff and the customers and everyone involved has risen to it, and we're at the point now where we're able to kind of think about opening up more and doing more, and that's exciting for everybody.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some exciting times ahead, and like I say, hopefully with not too distant future, being able to return some of the kind of book groups, and everyone will be looking forward to Book Bug, I'm sure, coming back at some point and things like that, which will be massive. And it's just kind of the point where kind of the light is in the horizon a little bit as to where we can possibly see these points happening, which is fantastic. And as we have said, that a lot of changes do happen quite regularly, and we do have a COVID page on the Culture NL Library's Culture NL Library website that is dedicated to kind of keeping up to date about all the various restrictions or guidelines and things like that for the service. So if you do want to find out a wee bit more before you head along to the library, do go to culturenl.co.uk/COVID-19, and all the latest information about the libraries and the other services that Culture NL in the past have managed are all there as well. So you can kind of have a wee look through there and see what's happening as well for things like Summerlee and things like that as well. So do have a wee look there. Now, Drew, we did mention there about how it's exciting times. What's been the response at Airdrie Library from the library members coming back in? What kind of things have they seemed to miss? What do it look like they've been enjoying now that they're back in since we've managed to get the libraries reopened?
Oh, I think it's been overwhelmingly positive. It's been a wonderful response from everybody. Everybody that comes in the door says how delighted they are to be back with us. Many have openly said that to us as they approach the desk, as they approach Track and Trace. It's amazing to be back, particularly in Airdrie, I think, because it's such a historic place and it's right in the heart of the town, and it's beloved by everybody that comes into contact with it. Many people seem to have genuinely missed us, missed the staff, missed the service, missed the building itself. I think particularly the community aspect of the library, many people have missed. We see a lot of regulars every single day, same faces every single day, and they've missed that, and we're starting to see that coming back again. So it's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful to be able to open the doors and have people coming back and getting back to what they're used to again. I think some of the services that we offer have been hugely missed. We had talked there about computer access, access to the book stock itself clearly has been a massive thing. These have been hugely missed, although BorrowBox has been wonderful over the lockdown periods. I think, as you had mentioned, Chris, the physical book is something that people do love to have. I think the quality of, I know we'll talk about this in a bit, but the quality of the stock that we have just now is perhaps the best it ever has been, for a variety of reasons round about that. But we've invested heavily over the lockdown period in new stock and making our libraries almost brand new, if you like, as you come in. The amount and quality and depth of stock that you'll see when you come into the library now is, as I say, perhaps the best it ever has been. And also, as I say, there's been lots of positive comments about the e-services that we've been offering during the lockdown period, and that they've kept people ticking along. They've kept people engaged with the service, and they've kept us engaged with our borrowers as well. You know, a lot of the digital education and digital sort of engagement that we did over the lockdown has kept us engaged with the customer, which has been a brilliant two-way thing. So it's been an overwhelmingly positive response on the ground here to us opening back up, and I think that will just continue as we open up more and get back to a wee bit more normality.
Yeah, as e-services librarian, it's fantastic to hear that people are actually making a comment about how fantastic BorrowBox was during the lockdown period. So that makes me very, very happy. But I do think, like you say, I mean, even just the simple thing about the kind of coming in and just chatting to people and getting to meet people. Obviously, for a long period, there was the kind of strict lockdown period where it was like kind of you pretty much have to stay in your house and only go out for shopping and things like that sort of stuff. And I mean, it was a big isolating period for a lot of people, and libraries have always been places where people do come and kind of get that little bit of a chat with the staff or maybe friends and they meet up with and things like that. So I do think that people will have missed that greatly, and it's great to see that that's coming back and people will get that kind of little bit of kind of chat with people and lose that isolation that we've unfortunately had to go through over the last year and a half. So it's good to hear.
I think, Chris, that's exactly what, you know, I think you've hit it on the head there, really. That what we can do with opening up is go back to that welcoming environment, that supportive environment that people are used to, that they can come in and sit in. It's non-judgmental. They can come and sit all day if they want, and they can access to the services and they can meet people. And I think one of the biggest concerns we've had over that lockdown period is that we don't see people and we don't see them and support them in the way we have been able to do before. And if we can get back to being able to do that and to get back to being that safe space people can come into and use, then that is hugely positive from our point of view, and positive obviously for our customers. You know, we want to see people come in now. We want to see people use the spaces like they used to. We've still got a few steps in the road to get to full service, but the light, as you said, is at the end of the tunnel now, and we can see where we are opening up a bit more and getting back to those services that people expect, you know, that they can come in and use whenever they want. And from our point of view, that's really positive. The one thing I would say, though, but I mean, it's slightly different off on track there, is I'd like to take this opportunity to actually really praise the staff for the last year and a half.
Absolutely.
I think the staff have been absolutely fantastic across the board. I think the online services we've done have been hugely innovative. And if anybody has not tapped into them, you can still do so. You know, just a little plug there. But the things we've been able to do, the challenge that we've raised to over the last period of time has been nothing short of impressive, and all the staff have pulled together, and it's been fantastic to see, you know. So thank you to all the staff for what they've done and how they support the service over the last year and a half, and without it we wouldn't have been here.
Yeah. I second that hugely. The staff have been so flexible and so adaptive and so willing to go the extra mile that it takes to kind of get us back to where we need to be, even in the short term. And as I say, with change thrown at them from all sides all the time, they've taken that head on, and every single time it's come up, they've met the challenge head on. So I second that hugely, Russell. The staff have been absolutely key in all of this, and any success that we go on to have is entirely because of them.
Yeah. And I do think that with our libraries reopening, the library members obviously have that benefit of libraries open, but I'm sure the staff have enjoyed that benefit a bit too, because it's although we have adapted to the situation that we've had to be in, I'm sure that a lot of them will enjoy kind of being able to get back and kind of, again, the same sort of benefits to the library members, see their work colleagues, kind of be able to have a kind of daily chats with them and just experience kind of being in that working environment again with their colleagues who they've probably not had much of a chance to kind of meet too much in person, at least over the last kind of year or so.
I think as well, we have to kind of remember as well that although the vast majority of staff weren't at work during the lockdown periods, the work of the library did go on in the background too. The non-facing work of the library was very much still happening, and as Russell said right at the start, lots of our focus then shifted quite a lot to maintenance, to maintaining buildings, to working towards COVID compliance. So the staff have all had to adapt to that. And you have to remember that people coming back to work after an extended period away is a real kind of mental challenge as well.
Yeah.
And they've all totally risen to that. So in all ways, people that were still at work have had different challenges from people that weren't. But everyone's risen to the challenge, and only now we're starting to see the kind of benefits of that.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think, those of us who've been lucky enough, and I will say that, to continue to work during lockdown, didn't feel like it was lucky sometimes, but we've been busy, we've been managed to work from home and do things on computers and things like that. But we know there are staff that have been furloughed, and have not been able to do that, and have been not engaged with those day-to-day routines. And it's been difficult, I think, for some people to come back to that, and they have risen to the challenge for that as well. And that's something we're very much aware of going forward, that as you get back to your normal contracted hours and the routines are coming in and meeting other people, it's not easy to just slot back into that straight away. But it's been impressive how people have done that and have been able to come back and without too much fuss and start this slot service back up again. So, but again, yeah, it's difficult for us who's not done that to see how that's gone. But it's glad to see again that people are coming back and are off furlough as well.
Yeah, I think as well the customers notice that, don't they? Particularly in our branch libraries, the customers like to see a familiar face, and they like to have a service that they're used to. And you've absolutely nailed it there as well, Russell. That I think of one of the branch libraries that I'm involved with, View Park. That it's a very much a kind of community-based facility that the staff know the customers know the staff, and all are very comfortable with each other. And that's what our service is about. It's that comfort and that accessing the service at a time that's suitable for them with people that they're comfortable with. So to get all of that back to normal has been a real challenge, but hopefully now we're almost there, and it's going to be a real benefit for us.
Yep.
Yeah, hopefully. And Drew, you mentioned a little bit earlier on about the new stock in the libraries. We have obviously mentioned about how we've managed to keep sort of access to books going through BorrowBox, but that doesn't mean that over the last year or so that we have completely not bought any new physical books in any way. We have been kind of working away in the background, as you say, to make sure that all the new stock is sitting waiting whenever we did get the opportunity to reopen the doors. With that in mind, does it almost have almost like a new library feel to it whenever you have been able to open back up? Yeah,
I think this has been one of my favourite certainly jobs over the last kind of year, has been the purchase of stock. We've invested heavily in it, and we've bought loads of new titles that are filling our shelves as we speak. Titles that you wouldn't normally, it sounds daft, but you wouldn't normally necessarily see immediately on the shelves of libraries. One of the sort of side effects of having to suspend the request service because of COVID restrictions has been that new books are actually, as soon as they're received, they're out on the shelves of our libraries, which again sounds silly, but it's something that doesn't often happen in normal times because new books are the most popular and they go straight out and they go elsewhere across the service. But if you were to go into any of our libraries at the moment, you're going to see stuff on the shelves that is relevant, is current, as big titles. There's lots of them. There's multiple copies in a lot of places of the big titles. I think of things like we currently downstairs have really big titles on multiple copies, like the Thursday Murder Club, like Shuggy Bane, like all of these books that have been huge for the last 12 months. You're actually able now to come into the library and pick them off the shelf and take them with you straight away. So that's been a fringe benefit, if you like, of having to work within COVID restrictions. I think about our children's stock as well. Particularly supporting the Summer Reading Challenge. We've got multiple copies of things at the moment, like the Ichabog or the new David Walliams Mega Monster. There's lots of that kind of thing as well. So we've invested across the board It's not just in certain things. Our book group titles as well have taken a real boost over the lockdown period in readiness for us opening again, and in readiness for our meetings to build up again. So if you're in a book group, you're probably in for a treat over the next few months, because there's lots of new things for you to read. So I think you're right, Chris. I think in a lot of ways it's like being a new library. If we were to sit back and go, what would we have multiple copies of? In a dream scenario, what would we have lots of to open a new library? I don't think it would be far away from what we actually do have just now. I think the day when Airdrie opened up, for example, we all looked here at what was sitting out and thought, this looks brilliant. This looks brilliant. And I know that's replicated across the board in all our libraries. So it's really exciting at the moment that you can walk in, you can pick up what you want largely and take it away straight away without having to reserve and without having to request. It's an exciting time to be a member.
Yeah, so I mean, like something like Shuggy Bane, for example, pre-COVID, it probably wouldn't have appeared back on a shelf somewhere for like the next year.
Exactly.
because of reservations. It would just be constantly kind of flying around about. Obviously, it is good to borrowers, but it's just you never see it back in its home library sitting on a shelf somewhere for somebody to pick up. And so I did notice that whenever I was in the Airdrie recently to take some photos for our social media and things like that there is lots of great displays of really top titles, and there are plenty of copies available for everyone to get a hold of. So it's a benefit that we haven't really kind of probably necessarily expected, but it's a nice benefit for the library members to have that at the moment and be able to walk in and be able to get their hands straight onto some of these big kind of titles that would normally be part of a massive waiting list and a reservation queue. So that's definitely a nice benefit.
It's good to know that what we did over the lockdown period was we did have money available. We did continue to spend. That none of that was weeked away. We continued to spend and to put the stock away in preparation for reopening, and then this year the spend has continued. So, that's also been a positive from our point of view, that the money has been made available and we've been able to spend it as we have in the past on new stock. I would just add one little flip side to that. Is the downside to that has been the increased demand on BorrowBox. Has meant you go on there and see an awful lot of these titles that are months before you can get them. I know you're going to have to have a conversation about that, Chris. So there's always swings and roundabouts on that one, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. I mean, the popularity of BorrowBox has been fantastic over the lockdown period, but that popularity does come with a bit of a price in terms of the waiting list maybe not be in libraries because the reservations aren't there, but they unfortunately are appearing on BorrowBox instead. And we do try and keep that on top of that as best we can, and where we can reduce the waiting list where we possibly can. But there are a few that are very, very popular titles out there that probably a couple of the ones that we mentioned actually, Shoggy Bane and Thursday Murder Club and things like that are two that spring to mind where you may be waiting a little while if you're on BorrowBox for it. So pop down to Airdrie Library.
Precisely. We can help you. We can help you. Come to any of our main branch libraries or any of our libraries, and we can help you.
I've already took advantage of that.
And you can pick up something else on BorrowBox while you're waiting for it.
Nice.
So Russell, let's try and look a bit hopefully towards the future. It's getting a bit rosier all the time. What else can we hope to achieve with the service recovery in the next kind of few months or beyond?
Hopefully, like I say, a number of things. It's getting much rosier as we go forward. Next week's a big change for us again. This week was significant because we reduced the 1 meter to 1 meter distance. We stopped our quarantine in the books, so that will mean book turnover will be much quicker. We opened up the toilets, that we manage, so people can go to the toilet now. We also remove what we call dwell time. So before this week, we were encouraging people to just come in, pick the items and leave. Whereas now we've put soft seating back out again, or we're starting to do that in spaces. Obviously, we're still following local safety protocols, and we still need to insist people keep at least 1 meter distance. But you can now come in, you can sit, you can read your book, whereas you couldn't do that before. So those things are starting to happen. We've increased the amount of open hours from next week, and as we've already talked about in some of our libraries, and we'll continue to review that over the next month or so. And increase the opening hours in our other libraries. We are hopefully, fingers crossed, going to get our mobiles back on the road. One of the challenges we talked about in terms of repairs and putting in place safety protocols that's really held us up with the mobiles, but we're hopeful that we can get our mobiles back on the road shortly as well. We are hopeful that now that we've gone down to 1 meter, what we can also start doing now is have those one-to-one supports. We can have groups come back in. We'll look and see how we can do BookBug. I'm sure now there's lots of people desperate for BookBug to start up again, and so if we can try and get that up and running again after the summer term, we're certainly going to try and look at that. It may not look exactly the same. It might be slightly reduced in terms of the amount of people can attend, because we're still doing some social distancing. We'll probably have to wear masks, but we can actually deliver on site now, which is something we haven't done before. Book groups, Drew already mentioned them. Great to probably get some book groups back, probably do some actual activities on site now, whereas all of activities have been online up to now. So we're all looking at possibly author visits and other school visits eventually. So it is looking good that we can now can contemplate delivering those and build those up. By September, what we're also looking to do is make all of our spaces for rent available again, so you can hire rooms. But that's one of the last things we really can try and do, because some of the rooms are small, so in terms of ventilation we've got to watch that. But we think by about the kind of 6th of September, that's something else we can do, and during all that period we will continue to try and extend opening hours back up again for all of the libraries where we're able to do so, and get them back open, back to normality, really, I suppose, as close to whatever normality is as we possibly can be. So over the next kind of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, we should see a steady progression of expansion of the service, and more things to do. The one thing we can't contemplate right now, and I'm sure this does frustrate some people but not others, is that we can't start reservations at the moment. The reason we can't is because we're not got full opening hours, so it would be unfair of us to disproportionately affect people who can't get out because the library's not open, as opposed to those who can. So we decided that we will suspend reservations for now until we've got a much fuller suite of opening hours for our libraries, and after that we will then look to get them back up running again.
Fantastic. It will be exciting to be able to get all the groups and things like that back up and running that we did previously have, and I'm sure there's many people out there chomping at the bit to get back. We did recently have a BookBug session at Summerlee as part of National Play Day, and there was a big interest in that, and it just kind of shows that service there on its own is something that people are really, really desperate to get back to, and so it'll be fantastic whenever we can get back to offering that as fully as possible again, and with obviously, as you say, guidelines in place. But I'm sure it'll be a great thing to kind of get the rhymes and stories happening again in our libraries. It's something that it's nice to hear in the background sometimes whenever you're in some of the libraries, just the songs and rhymes going on and things like that. So it'll be nice to kind of get that back in place as well, just from that point of view. So let's round off, guys, with having a little think about some of our recent reads. So, because we have to kind of put out some recommendations there for people to kind of have a look at. So, Drew, will we start off with you? Have you got anything you'd like to kind of point out to people?
Yeah, so absolutely. This week, our book group met here in Airdrie, and we were reading this week Leave the World Behind by Ruman Alam. Now, I don't know if you know this one. It was a very, very big book last year. It's a sort of, oh my goodness, it's a family drama set around what is, you might think is an apocalyptic event. Something happens in New York. There's a family on holiday in upstate New York at the time, and start hearing rumours about what might have happened. It was a huge book during the pandemic for obvious kind of reasons. This family are isolated in a house and not really knowing what's going on in the outside world. And it was a big hit last year. It's so big that there's a Netflix adaptation of it due out, I think, September, October, starring Denzel Washington and Julia Roberts. So our book group read it and discussed it this week, and we all absolutely loved it for various reasons. But it struck a chord with us because it's very, very similar to the times that we've all recently lived through. So I would definitely recommend that. Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. Also, another couple just honourable mentions. We've also recently read Trio by William Boyd and Mr. Wilder and Me by Jonathan Coe, both books about the film industry in the 60s and 70s, novels, but both very, very evocative of a certain period of time with certain characters. One features, the William Boyd book is entirely fictional, about a fictional film being made in Brighton in the 60s. And the Jonathan Coe book, Mr. Wilder and Me, features actual cinematic figures, Billy Wilder being the central figure there. So different approaches to the same sort of thing, but both wonderfully kind of evocative of a certain period, and both cracking smart reads for the summer, I would think, as well. So if you were looking for something like that, I would go for either of those. So that's really where we're at here in Airdrie at the moment. But there's lots out there that I could recommend, but I'm going to go for those three.
Right. Fantastic. Now, Russell, I know that your taste in books is a bit different from mine, at least. So, what have you got on your recommendation list?
Well, I'm going to surprise you here, Chris, because as you know, I've got those two rules that if it hasn't got any zombies in it, and if it hasn't got any dragons in it, I don't read it. That's it. That's my two rules. However, I'm actually going to surprise you because I've just found a book that is stunning. I've only really started reading it, so I'll give you a brief premise of it, but I won't be able to go into much detail. But it's by a ghostwriter called Elena Ferranti. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's the Neapolitan series, and it's called My Brilliant Friend. And it is a stunning read. I've only just started reading it, but even already into it straight away. It's about two girls who grow up in 1950s Napoli, and it's about their trials and tribulations of growing up in poverty, in destitution, and with a lot of crime. There's a lot of about story about the local mafia and how they overcome living in that area of Napoli where there's a lot of crime, a lot of poverty. But the writing is absolutely stunning. It's also a backcloth to the development of Italy as a nation, to the problems of living in Napoli as a city, and it brings both Napoli as a city to life through the characters and through their exploits and through the narrative of the story. It is absolutely stunning. I would very much recommend anybody to read that and the other three books in the series. There's also, if you don't read that, there's also a television series made of it. It's obviously, as you imagine, very, very famous in Italy, but has sold millions of copies worldwide as well. So no dragons in it, no zombies in it. So it's different for me, but I would very much recommend that. I'm also, just a bit of plug on BorrowBox, I'm also listening to a couple of audiobooks at the moment. One that is got dragons in it, I think. The Unfinished Tales by J.R. Tolkien. It's just easy to plug that in and listen. And I've managed to get a copy of The President's Daughter, one by Bill Clinton. So I thought, give that a go. Don't usually listen to those like James Patterson and things like that. But I thought, give that a go because it's a nice, easy one to listen to. So those are the kind of my three at the moment. I could go on because there's loads of other fantasy novels I'm reading right now. Falls of Erlon is a good one if anybody wants to read that. But those are the three I'd recommend for you right now.
I don't think there'll be any dragons in the Bill Clinton one either, though. You might be a bit disappointed.
Not literal ones, I don't think.
Well, yeah. I think whenever it comes to mine, I've been kind of reading the books that have been part of our Facebook book group reads, and the one that I really enjoyed quite recently was Anna McPartland's Below the Big Blue Sky, which is actually a sequel to The Last Days of Rabbit Haze. I've not read that one, but I read the second one, and it was really, really good. It's quite an emotional story because it's about the family getting to terms with the loss of a family member through cancer, and but there are moments that will kind of really touch you emotionally, but also kind of there's parts in it that are really, really funny as well, and it does that so well, and it follows all the family members and their own little stories, and you really kind of feel the personality of all the characters as you go through. So it's definitely a really good read, and you don't have to have read the first one either to really enjoy it, because I haven't. So you can kind of really get a sense of the characters just from this book on its own. The other one that we did was The Dead Fathers Club by Matt Haig, which It was a really interesting read. The main character in that, his dad has died in a car crash, and he starts to see his ghost, and he starts telling him things as it goes through the story, and he tries to kind of tell him to do things and stuff like that. And as you go through the story, you kind of slowly but surely get revealed things about why that's kind of happening and things, and it's another really good one. I'm a huge Matt Haig fan as well, so pretty much anything that Matt Haig writes, I'm always into and would happily read, which is why I'm also really interested to read his new book, which is the Comfort Book. I haven't read that yet, but I do have it sitting ready to read. It's not a fiction book. It's kind of it's one of these sort of I don't want to call it a self-help book, but it's that kind of little kind of stories and passages about kind of making you uplifted from if you're feeling a bit down. So that's one that I'm kind of looking to kind of look forward to as well. And I do have another book that I'm really excited to read, and you guys are going to probably laugh at me for this one. I've not read it yet, but I know it's going to be a cracker, and it's a picture book.
There you go.
And it's called The Whale Who Wanted More by Rachel Bright, and it came out, the hardback one came out a while back, but literally I have just picked up the paperback one today, and I think I'm more excited about it than my little boy to read it tonight. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So that's my kind of one that I'm reading or have read and recently. So that's my recommendation. So there you go.
you do know that it is the law that if you're a librarian, you have to have at least 6 books on the go at any one time anyway. So
so true. It's so true. Chris, I look forward to your review of that one, though.
Yeah.
It's the Whale That Wanted More is part of a children. It's not a series as such, but it's a kind of collaboration between Rachel Bright and an illustrator called Chris Chatterton. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong one. The Jim Field. She does another set with Chris Chatterton. This is the Jim Field ones, and they are all fantastic. There's one called The Line Inside, and The Squirrels Who Squabbled, and I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they're all fantastic, and they've all got really good little meanings behind the stories, and the illustrations are fantastic as well. The Chris Chatterton ones are good as well, so do check them out too if you're interested. And they are just brilliant. They just bring a smile to my face whenever I'm reading them to my little boy. So it's always good. It's always good. But we're also hopefully going to start a little new feature to our podcast by introducing. Well, not introducing, but including a little soundbite from a staff member who has got the recommendation as well by kind of little. They're sending in little clips to me, and we're going to kind of insert them into the podcast, and we will let you guys hear what they have been recommending as well. And for today's podcast, I have got one from Peter, who works at Motherwell Library, and we'll put that little clip in now.
Hi, my name is Peter from Motherwell Library. Recently, I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I'd highly recommend it because it has it all. It's a murder mystery with a heart. It's nicely constructed, neatly assembled, ingeniously plotted in the best Agatha Christie tradition, and has a colourful collection of characters that are entirely credible and very entertaining. I loved it too because it's so quintessentially British, and as well as being extremely well crafted, it has a brilliant sense of humour. So, this is a book that will make you laugh, intrigue you, surprise you, but above all else, do what every good book should do, and that's entertain you. The only downside is when you finish it, you simply want it to run and run. So, pick it up today at your local library. You honestly won't be sorry you did.
So there is Peter's recommendation. I hope you do check that out and enjoy it and look forward to more little recommendations from staff and going forward as well as we get them. That is the end of our podcast here. So I'd like to thank Russell and Drew for joining me, and I hope we have managed to give you a good little insight into what's been going on with the library service and getting it back up and running, and hopefully you'll be able to get back into the libraries and enjoy them fully in the not too distant future, and enjoy them as they are at the moment as well. But hopefully with the book groups and possibly the book blog coming back in the not too distant future, it'll be much more like we don't normally have. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If you have, please do feel free to leave us some feedback by using the hashtag FLB podcast on Twitter, or by dropping us a wee email at librarypodcast@northland.gov.uk. And you can find out all that's happening in the libraries over the next little while by going to culturenl.co.uk/libraries, and you'll find all the library information there, including what's on as well. So you'll get up-to-date information about what's happening in the library right in there on the website. But that's all for us, guys. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will be back again soon with another episode very soon. Bye for now.
Thanks a lot. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.